and girls. Today we are going to read the last chapters of the Twits. Yay! Are you ready to see how this adventure ends? Okay, the chapter is called The Ravens Swoop Over. They had only just finished the job when the roly-poly bird came swooping in screaming, "They're coming! They're coming back! They're coming back!" Quickly, the birds flew back onto the roof of the house. The monkeys rushed into their cage and stood upside down, one on top of the other. One moment later, Mr. and Mrs. Twit came marching into the garden, each carrying a fearsome-looking gun. "I am glad to see the monkeys are still upside down," said Mr. Twit.
They are too stupid to think of doing anything else," said Mrs. Twit. "Hey! Look up at those cheeky birds. They are still up there on the roof. Let's go inside and load our lovely new guns, and then it will be bang, 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 and bird pie for supper."
Just as Mr. and Mrs. Twit were about to enter the house, two black ravens swooped low over their heads. Each bird carried a paintbrush in the claw, and each paintbrush was smeared with sticky glue. As the ravens swished over, they brushed the streak of sticky glue onto the top of Mr. and Mrs. Twit's head. They did it with the lightest touch, but even so, the Twits felt it. "Shh! What was that?" cried Mrs. Twit. "I think some beastly bird has dropped his dirty droppings on my head. I think they pooped on my head. Ew!" "On mine too!" shouted Mr. Twit. I felt it! Ew! There's poop on my head! Don't touch it! Don't touch it! You'll get it all over your hands. Come on inside. We'll wash our heads in the sink." "Those filthy brutes!" yelled Mr. Twit. I'll bet it. They did it on purpose. Just wait until I load my gun." Mrs. Twit got the key from under the doormat, where Muggle-Wump had carefully replaced it, and into the house they went. Okay, so here is Mr. Twit and Mrs. Twit coming home with their guns. You see. And here are the ravens bringing the paintbrushes in their claws and putting the sticky glue on their heads. And they think it's poop, but it's not poop, it's glue. The Twits are turned upside down. "What is this?" gasped Mr. Twit as they entered the living room. "What happened?" said Mrs. Twit. They stood in the middle of the room looking up. All the furniture was up on the ceiling. The sofa, the big table, the chairs, the lamps, the little side tables, the cabinet, the bottles of beer, the ornaments, the electric heater. Everything was stuck upside down on the ceiling. The pictures were upside down on the walls. And the floor they were standing on was absolutely bare. What's more, it had been painted white to look like the ceiling. So there they are, looking up, and they see everything that is upside down. Look! Screamed Mrs. Twit. That's the floor! The floor is up there. This is the ceiling. We are standing on the ceiling. We are upside down. We must be upside down. We are standing on the ceiling, looking down on the floor. Oh, help! Help! Screamed Mrs. Tweet. Help, 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 help! I'm beginning to feel giddy. So am I! So am I! Cried Mr. Twit. I don't like this one little bit. We're upside down. All the blood is coming down to our heads, screamed Mrs. Twit. If we don't do something quickly, I shall die. I know I will. I will die. I've got it, cried Mr. Twit. I know what we will do. We will stand on our heads. Then anyway will be the right way up. So they stood on their heads, and of course, the moment the top of their heads touched the floor, the sticky glue the ravens had brushed a few moments before did its job. They were stuck. They were pinned down, cemented, glued, fixed to the floorboards. Through a crack in the door, the monkeys were watching. Through a little hole on the door, the monkeys were looking inside what was happening inside Mr. and Mrs. Twit's house. They jumped right out of their cage the moment that Mr. Twit and Mrs. Twit had gone inside. And the roly-poly bird watched too. And all the other birds flew in and out to catch a glimpse of this extraordinary sight. Okay, so there they are thinking that they are upside down and that the blood is coming to their heads. And then they decide that they are going to stand on their heads to be in the right position. And the glue got them stuck on the floor. So they are stuck. They are stuck on the floor right now. That evening, that night, Mugglewump and his family went up to the big wood on top of the hill. And in the tallest tree of all, they built a marvelous tree house. All the birds, especially the big ones, the crows, the rooks, the magpies, made their nests around the tree house so that nobody could see the house of the monkeys from the ground. You can't stay up there forever, you know, the roly-poly bird said. Why not? Said Mugglewump. It's a beautiful place. It's a lovely place. Just you wait until the winter comes. Monkeys don't like the cold weather, do they? they most certainly not, cried Mugglewump. Are winters bad here? Oh, yes, there is snow and ice, said the roly-poly. Sometimes it's so cold that the birds have their feet frozen. It's really, really bad. Then what are we going to do? Said Mugglewump. My family is going to freeze. No, they won't, said Roly-Poly, because when the first leaves start falling off the trees, you shall fly home to Africa with me.
Don't be ridiculous. Monkeys can't fly.
You can sit on my back, said Roly-Poly Bird. I shall take you one at a time. You will travel by the Roly-Poly Super Jet, and it won't cost you a penny. So that's the house that they made on top of a very big tree, and all of the other birds made their nests around so that the people from under on the earth would not see the house of the monkeys. The Twits get the shrinks. And down here in the horrible house, Mr. and Mrs. Twit are still stuck upside down to the floor of the living room.
It's all your fault, yelled Mr. Twit, thrashing his legs up in the air. You are the one, you old cow, who went hopping around shouting, "Oh, we're upside down! We're upside down!" And you are the one that said, we'll never get free. We're stuck here forever. You're the one that said that we had to stand on our heads to be the right way. Oh, we're going to be stuck here forever. You may be stuck here forever, said Mr. Twit, but not me. I am going to get away. Mr. Twit wriggled and squirmed and squiggled and wormed and twisted and turned. And he chuggled and churned, but the sticky glue held him tight on the floor, like a dead tree. He was still upside down as ever, standing on his head. But you know, heads are not made to be stood upon. If you stand on your head for a very, very long time, a horrible thing happens to you. And this was the moment where Mr. Twit got his biggest shock of all. With so much weight on from up above, his head began to get squashed into his body. Quite soon, it had disappeared completely, sunk out of sight in the fatty folds of his flabby neck. I am shrinking, burbled Mr. Twit. So am I, cried Mrs. Twit. Help me! Save me! Call a doctor, yelled Mr. Twit. I am getting the dreaded shrinks. And so he was. And Mrs. Twit was getting the dreaded shrinks too. And this time, it wasn't fake. It was the real thing. Their heads shrank into their necks. Their necks shrank into their chests. Their chests shrank into their tummies. Their tummies shrank into their legs. And their legs shrank into their feet. And 1 week later, on a nice sunny afternoon, a man called Fred came round to read the gas meter. When nobody answered the door, Fred looked inside the house. And there he saw, on the floor of the living room, 2 bundles of old clothes, 2 pairs of old shoes, a walking stick, a glass eye. There was nothing more left in this world of Mr. and Mrs. Twit. And everyone, including Fred, said, "Hooray!" That's what was left of the Twits. Only their clothes. They disappeared. They got the shrinks. They died. They started shrinking inside of their bodies, and then nothing was left. And colorín colorete, este cuento se acabete. Oh my God, we're done with the Twits. Wasn't it super fun? Yay! So that is our second book from Roald Dahl. Excellent. I loved it. I hope you loved it too.